Bat Force Radio.
Bat Force Radio is rated M for mature. Or should that be immature?
Hey guys, Dustin Wynn.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder.
This is Paul Dini.
And you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
And you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
You're listening to Bat Force Radio.
This is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman, and you're listening to Bat Force Radio, so stay tuned.
Welcome back to Bat Force Radio as we once again travel beyond the borders of Gotham City and delve further into other comics and other worlds that we love. Joining us this week, we've got Bat Force Tom in California.
Hey.
And I'm Robin Cross in Canada. This week's guest is an illustrator coming fresh off of the Autumnal, an 8-issue horror series written by Daniel Kraus from Vault Comics and one of my favorite books of the past year. And this week, he gives us the first issue of Boom Studios' House of Slaughter, a massive new series from co-creators James Tynion, Tate Bromble, Werther Dell'Edera, and Mikel Muerto, spinning out of the also massive Something is Killing the Children, which will soon be heading on its way to Netflix. House of Slaughter hits shelves this week, having already headed to second print after retailers have ordered a Brobdingnagian 460,000 plus copies. And with that bonkers number to live up to, we welcome to the show, Chris Shehan.
Hello.
Hey.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for taking the time to do it. So first of all, congrats on the release of the big first issue. By the time at the time we're recording this issue, this episode, the issue comes out tomorrow. So what is your level of nervous the eve of release?
It's all the way up. It's always that way, I guess, but especially now, this is my first time working on something that was already an established property that already has an established fan base, and just knowing a lot of people will be looking at my work and being on something that already has fans has me extremely nervous.
What is it like to step into a project that already has such a massive spotlight? Like, aside from the audience that the main comic, the first series, Something is Killing the Children, had, like, there's already the at least possibility that the characters that you're working with right now are going to appear in live action.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's exciting and terrifying. It feels like a big leap for me. And I suppose it's a good thing and it's a good leap, but I feel like my imposter syndrome was not ready for this level of a leap. And so just the thought of even seeing anything that I've worked on or designed in any way in live action is really cool and terrifying.
So I want to get to how that came about, but I think the best way to do it, we should start by rewinding. Let's go with your origin story. What was your first inspiration to art? Like, I'm aware of some things like that you weren't really a comic reader before getting into art, like pursuing it professionally. So what was that thing that made you first want to become an artist?
I feel like, I don't know, I assume all like little kids draw and make art, and I just didn't stop. And but for me, the big thing was storytelling. I always wanted to be a storyteller in some form, and it was before I really had discovered comics and what they could be and everything. And so I loved like animation. I grew up on Batman the Animated Series and X-Men, the animated series, and I loved movies. I was always one of those kids that actually could sit still for movies. And I knew I wanted to tell stories. I would create stories in my head. I would draw everything out. As I got older, I made like little films, little movies with my parents' camera, and then I made like little stop motion movies with a webcam. I just wanted to tell stories in whatever way I could. I took creative writing classes, and it wasn't really like I knew comics existed, and I liked the idea of them. I made little comics when I was very young, but I never actually like set foot into a comic shop because no one really ever introduced me to actual comics. So it wasn't until like college that I actually took one of my literature classes. One of the options for it, they had like American literature, European literature, but one of them was comics, and that would count as one of my basics. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm lazy. I'll take a comics literature class, and I did. And all of the textbooks were like graphic novels, like Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud, and Watchmen, and like Identity Crisis, and The Dark Knight Returns, and stuff like that. And I was kind of blown away because I never really grasped. I loved books and I loved movies, and I never fully grasped what comics could be. So I went to my first comic convention, and that was in 2009, and it was San Diego. So it was a big one. And I brought a portfolio, and hoping I could get some feedback. I thought I was naive enough at the time to think I could get work. I was not good enough at all, but I was able to get feedback that helped me learn, and I could go home and improve and just keep working on that. And one of the best pieces of advice I had gotten was, if you want to make comics, just make comics. Don't wait to get hired or wait for anything. Just start. So instead of working on portfolio, like more just portfolio pieces, like I was drawing like Spider-Man pages and stuff for fun for my portfolio. I went and started just making my own stories and making my own pages, and that helped me a lot. From there, I had gotten, this was in 2010, I had gotten to work on a historical comic, small press historical comic written by a historian called El Paso. And it's about El Paso, Texas, specifically about a marshal that had lived there that kind of helped turn the city around at the time in like the 1800s. And that was my first time working on something that was to be printed and published in some sort of way. And it was a 6-issue miniseries that I did 1 issue for. And I barely got that job because a lot of the other artists that they had on that project had kind of bailed. They took the money and ran. So yeah, so I wasn't as good as everyone on the team at the time, but they were like, we can't pay you because our last artist took the money and ghosted. So they were like, we can give you like $4 a page and comps. And I was like, oh yeah, I was just happy to do something. Yeah. So I would never tell anyone to accept $4 a page now, but at the time I was just like, yeah, it was my first thing. So I very happily did it. I worked really hard on it. And I'm proud of it. I mean, I don't show it that work to anyone because it's not that great, but it was a big start for me that helped me gain some confidence. And from there, I thought, okay, now that I've been published and I did a full comic, I can keep trying to do freelance and maybe do it full time. And that was, I think, a mistake. I wasn't in a place where I could do full time, but I tried really hard, and that trying really hard exhausted me to the point of burnout. So I ended up like taking doing work in like in sales and marketing, and I did that for 5 years, and I did it fairly successfully that I almost forgot about my dreams to make comics and tell stories.
Oh man.
And I was 26 when my dog had died. And not to like bring this down, but it was just kind of, I don't know, it snapped me out of everything. It put a lot of things into perspective. I realized I was not actually happy doing what I was doing. And I was remembering my original dreams, and I quit everything. I moved in with my mom, and I worked really hard on art again and made portfolio pages that led to getting some more small press work. And one of the ones that I'm proud of to this day is a mini series called Prometheus that I did with writer Ryan Little. And you can get that book through Ryan. It was funded via Kickstarter. I'm actually still working on it in the background on the final issue slowly. And so that will actually conclude, but it was a 6, I can't remember, 5 to 6 issue miniseries, I think 5. And that's something I'm really proud of. And doing that helped me get noticed by Vault, which led to the Autumnal.
How did you get in contact with like Boom and working on this book?
They reached out to me as I was finishing the last issue of the Autumnal. I suppose they knew I was finishing that up, so they were checking on what I had planned for what I was going to do next. And thankfully, I did not have any plans for the rest of the year. I have some plans for 2022, but I had some open space, and they said, we're doing a spin-off of Something is Killing the Children, which I was a fan of at the time. They were like, so, and it's going to focus on the actual like House of Slaughter and the school aspect of it. And they told me it's there's going to be like queer romance in it. So I was really sold on all of that. That sounded right up my alley. Something horror, something queer, and a spin-off of something I was a huge fan of already. So I couldn't say no to that. I didn't. I made sure I could do it. I checked my schedule thoroughly to make sure I could fit it in. And yeah, so I don't know what actually led them to reaching out to me. I assume it was my work on the Autumnal. James Tynion was a big supporter of the Autumnal when it was first coming out. And I think that I think my name might have been given to Boom by him, but I'm not actually sure.
I guess we should have maybe started a little bit the beginning of the episode. I mean, because obviously Robin and I have read and have gotten familiar with House of Slaughter, and then also Something's Killing the Children. What would be like your normal like 5-minute? Here's what I'm working on right now.
Yeah, it helps if you've read Something is Killing the Children. So I would say I generally will tell people it's a spin-off of that, and it revolves around Aaron Slaughter as a teenager, kind of a little bit coming of age, showing his past and why he's the way he is, in Something is Killing the Children when you first meet him. And but if you have not read Something is Killing the Children, I'll typically say that Something is Killing the Children is a story about monsters and an underground secret organization of people that hunts them, and House of Slaughter is that organization.
House of Slaughter, for anyone who has been reading Something's Killing the Children, it involves many characters that we're already familiar with. The foremost, obviously, being Aaron, but also Jessica, Cecilia, and Gary are all present in issue 1. And we do get a brief glimpse of Erica, who is the protagonist and the hero character from Something's Killing the Children. But issue 1 of House of Slaughter is also the first appearance and introduction of the new character, Jace, who clearly plays a significant role not only in the Order, as we see him transferring over from another chapter, but also clearly plays a significant role in Aaron's young life. Is that, would you say, going to be one of the main focuses of at least the first arc of House of Slaughter? It feels like this is really setting up to be an Aaron and Jace story.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. This particular arc is Aaron and Jace focused, not so much on Erica. Erica's kind of a side character, but you will see her, and I think that's really fun. So yeah, I don't know what they have planned for future arcs, but I assume they'll go through all types of stuff, all the different masks and even like history. I don't really know, but this arc is going to be Jace and Aaron both as teenagers together and as adults.
Yeah, the end of that first issue really made you go,
Yeah. And
like, wait, what?
One other thing that I think is cool about this story going back and giving us more Aaron, I apologize for the spoiler here for anyone who hasn't read Something is Killing the Children, but it's something that you're going to find, fairly early on, if I remember right, in the series, if you go back and read the main book. Aaron is dead.
Yeah.
But now we're getting this new story that is going back and giving us his history and showing, everything that took him to the point where we met him in the main series. So it's cool to, because obviously Aaron was a popular character from the little we got of him in Something is Killing the Children. Mm-hmm. So it's very cool that he gets revisited and given this broader history via the house.
Yeah, my goal is to make everyone mad at James for killing him.
Nice. Well, I think a lot of people were already mad.
Yeah.
Aaron was a very likable character right off the start. And then not to say that this is the only reason people would like him, but I can't remember if we got this information in Something is Killing the Children or not, but we definitely find out through House of Slaughter that Aaron is either gay or bisexual. And so that's something that, I feel like a lot of people could latch onto him if they discover him in House of Slaughter and then find out what he's dead. What do you mean he's dead?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think James will already have some of that noise coming his way.
Oh yeah. Well, I can't actually say anything.
You can say it.
This might be something that we have to cut out. Yeah, I like how you're careful though.
Yeah, I think that there I'm sure there will be more queer characters as well, like moving forward, besides Aaron and Jace, because James is pretty good about writing them into his stories in general, in a great way too. And so I expect more of that, but I do hurt a little that Aaron is dead. And I know that once like readers get to know him even more, they'll be upset about it.
What
I think that's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna, that's one thing that I really like about this creative team that is involved with House of Slaughter. Because not only, you know, the stuff that James has been doing through this, but it's I think that is the fastest way to have characters of differing sexualities, different sexual orientations, to be introduced into comics, because you can see the same thing with race in other comics too. Like sometimes white authors won't tackle subjects of race. You know, they don't want to handle particular stories with, you know, maybe a black character or something, because they might feel, well, that's not my story to tell. And I think that there are a lot of creators that similarly won't think that it's their place to necessarily step into telling stories of characters with different sexual orientations than they have, and you know, because they don't, that's not their voice, and they don't understand what those people would have gone through and the lives that they've lived, so they might be hesitant to touch on that, unless you're Tom Taylor, who's, you know, just really brave and gets right out there with everything. But that's a really cool thing about this creative team that is lined up for this book. All you guys handling this can handle it, you know.
In my opinion, I think that like anyone can write queer characters, anyone can write black characters, but I feel like you definitely need people of that experience to write, like you need black people to write black experiences, because I feel like there's a difference. We should all be writing and being inclusive with everything, but I couldn't write a black experience. I could write a black character, but I couldn't write a very specifically black experience. I can write a queer experience, and I think James being, I believe James Tynion is bisexual. I know that that Tate Brombo, who's scripting House of Slaughter, is queer, and so am I. And I feel like we can actually tell these experiences, but I do believe that people, I love how Tom Taylor is doing and handling Superman, and I think that like all of us should be striving for writing diversity, and if anything, especially having like everything that we write should have sensitivity, readers who are actually of the experience that we're writing, or any of the stories we're telling, so that they can make sure that nothing is being poorly told or being told in any negative light. But yeah, I think it's great. And I was really glad to be asked to work on this story specifically. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, it's awesome to see, and it's great stuff. Like it's you know, your art, I think we were talking before you hopped on, your art style lends itself really, really well to the themes and the kind of look of the story. And you know, it's the colors, the colors really go well with your art as well. And you know, the mood that it kind of sets forth, like once people, I think, flip through it and read it and look at it, it's like, oh yeah, this match is really nice. I
appreciate that.
Yeah, it's we wouldn't have you on if we didn't like your stuff, to be honest. If so, you know, you were kind of reading you know, you were getting into graphic novels, getting into stuff in college, studying it. It's funny because like some people, they really love indie books because I think it's easier for them to identify with characters who are like not superheroes, and a lot of, you know, life situations are found more so in those kind of indie books. And then there's other people who they like the superhero stuff for whatever reason. Personally, I found myself, like as a kid, I loved superhero books because you can kind of see people or something or someone doing something that you would love to do but you can't. So I think that's what I gravitated towards when you were reading comics. What kind of characters do you feel like grabbed you, like in those times when you're reading it in college and your courses? Like what kind of books, what kind of characters like really said something to you and kind of still inspire you? And what are the kind of books that you gravitate towards because of that?
Um, my favorite comic series of all time is Hellboy,
Mm,
and I I like watching superheroes in movies and cartoons, but I don't read a lot of superhero comics. I do read some. There are certain Batman runs that I really like, but in general, I tend to gravitate towards like I don't know how to explain it. I guess it's kind of like lone wolf and cub style characters, like the single, the lone guy, wandering the world, finding his place. And I think Hellboy is that, big time. I really love that. I feel like um he's a really brilliant character, and you could do anything with him.
hmm
And Mike Mignola has done like almost everything with him. And I think that's so great. And one of my like big dreams is to create a character like that I can just draw for the rest of my life and be happy. It's clear that he doesn't get bored of drawing Hellboy. He doesn't get tired of it. That's what I want, something like that I can just hold on to and tell every possible story I want through the lens of this like this character that's kind of just a sad boy wandering the universe.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned Hellboy because artists like Mike Mignola, I feel like the art becomes like a character itself. And that kind of style of art, it's almost like it brings so much more to life to the story, because like that's this kind of stuff, if you didn't even read the words, you could just stare at the art all day long and flip through the pages and be like, wow.
Yeah.
And obviously it makes kind of sense as an artist that would probably grab you. What is and like you mentioned, like he's pretty much created his own little universe that he can do whatever he wants with Hellboy. What are some other examples of maybe like art that has grabbed you, like the first time you opened up the book and you're like, oh my God, I want to do that, or that's exactly what I want to do?
I feel like the biggest one is Mignola for sure. Like anything he does, because I feel the same way about like Bram Stoker's Dracula that he did. But outside of comics, there's a lot as well. I see artists like Yoji Shinkawa, if I'm saying that right. He did the like all of the concept art for Metal Gear Solid games.
Oh yeah.
And I like ever since I saw that, I wanted not necessarily to do concept art for video games, but to create like a character that I can draw in all these beautiful ways and tell stories with. And between like Yoji Shinkawa and Hideo Kojima, who made Metal Gear Solid, I think that's brilliant. And that art I gravitate to big time. Ralph McQuarrie, who did the like early Star Wars concept art. I could stare at it all day, and that's like part of me just wants to paint these big, elaborate, beautiful, like sci-fi fantasy scenes, and that his work like would tell you a narrative. If you look at his work, you don't like necessarily need to know the story. You get a grasp of a narrative from his work, and I really love that. So I find a lot of inspiration everywhere. Even just like people who are not necessarily artists in that sense, like filmmakers like Ridley Scott, who actually is an artist. I think Ridley Scott does great work in storytelling, but also he actually is a great artist. I've seen his like storyboard work. It's outstanding. um, uh, to go back into comics, people like Jock are great.
Yeah.
Jock could make all these great comics forever. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I find influence all over the place. I try not to just look at comics. I've always loved movies, so I look at like directors and storyboard artists, and I know some like I think Gabriel Hardman like does like storyboards, but also comics, and people like dip in and out of this industry because they just have a love for stories, and I gravitate towards creators and artists like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jock's a great example of that because he's done a lot of comics, and he's still working on one right now. But he's also done a lot of things, like he's done movie concept art for like the recent Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
He's done all of these movie posters and everything. We had Jock on a couple months ago on the show, and he's sitting in his studio while we're recording, and he's just surrounded by all this great stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So that's like a goal for me, is to just kind of be in that place where I can kind of dip in and out of different things that I love, and work on them in a creative aspect. Like to work on Star Wars would be amazing in any way.
Yeah.
I would be like smiling every single day, and I just it's very clear when there's artists who love telling a story in some form or another, and I love that type of
Yeah.
work.
We when we talked to Jock, he told us how, and I had no idea, but when he was doing do you remember which movie it was, Robin? Was it the first one of the new trilogy that he was on?
I think so. Because if we think about the time, it was when they were supposed to have been starting the second Witches story, and they had to put that off because he got offered the job.
Okay, yeah. So
it
he was
must have
telling
been
us
the first.
they set him up they set him up in a studio at Pinewood Studios, and he said like he walked out of his studio, and then like, there was like a hangar next door, and that's where like the set for the Millennium Falcon was.
Yeah, like to go to the bathroom, he had to walk past the Millennium Falcon.
No.
That's a trip.
Yeah.
Ah.
So he and this was back when like, and he had, you had to sign all these NDAs. So he's looking at this stuff every day going to work and seeing all of the sets built. He's seeing like wardrobe people walking around. They're giving him concepts to draw out like pieces of wardrobe and concept art for characters. And he's just sitting here like, oh my God, so like you mentioned that, like the way he describes it is he has to sit there and keep his mouth shut about the most amazing things like that he could think of yeah. And so he said it was almost like torture. Like, you can't tell anybody about the things you're seeing, and yet you're seeing it every day. So
I would be crying and smiling every single day.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that comics lead some of these people down these roads. Remember when we had Adam Hughes on, he was telling us about, he got to work on, was it Infinity War or Civil War? I feel like it was Infinity War. He just got called in, and I think he was there to just make stuff, they needed to create things for on the set and stuff like that. But he was just watching them shoot all these scenes, and that that came from his comic work just being so iconic and so well known and so influential.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, I love comics, and I love how a lot of us just love telling stories and being a part of stories.
Visually, what would you say is like your favorite Star Wars, like either movie, or like do you have a specific trilogy that you like the most, or a specific movie that for you as a visual guy it's like, oh, that's the one, that's my favorite?
Rogue One, easy.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, I think visually it's the best movie.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, oh man, watching like the trailers and seeing like just the HD footage of stormtroopers in like on a beach.
Yeah.
Like I remember like, whoa, what? Or seeing the I remember one of the first teaser trailers seeing, I forget what they're called, like the
The
stealth
death,
troopers,
the death trooper.
troopers out on the
Just
fields.
standing there with fire behind them.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I think because the director was a cinematographer, that's why the movie to me is so beautiful. And I know that Duncan Fegredo, who's a Hellboy artist, actually did storyboards for that movie.
Wow. There you go. So that's even more reason why you probably love it.
Yeah.
Was that one of the ones where they altered a lot of story, like they added things in, or I don't know if that's true or not, but I remember seeing or reading somewhere where they added a lot more like family story background to her dad designing the Death Star and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know that they did a lot of reshoots and edits, so a lot of the stuff you see in the trailer ended up not even being in the movie.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what the original vision was, or if they had to change it for any sort of reason, or if they improved upon it. I'm not actually sure.
That being said, I mean, even if they did cut and paste and a bunch of other stuff, like people, how they have their opinions one way or the other, but I love Rogue One.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like, knowing that, I'm like, wow, well, like, in my opinion, even if they had to do all that stuff, it's still kind of, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's I think the story's great. I think it's nice to kind of get away from the Jedi in a way, but still have like the Force be a part of the storytelling in another aspect. And the music is beautiful. The connecting tissue between Rogue One and A New Hope at the end is amazing to me. I light up every time.
Yeah, I'm just remembering now all the Vader stuff in that movie.
Yeah, that scene. And that's my favorite thing about the movie is I think it's brilliant that they took this, okay, there's this event that we know happened from, the movie 30 whatever years ago, but we've never told this story. Let's expand it and tell that story and show how this happened.
Yeah.
And
the whole story was just the scrolling text. And then they took that little snippet of the scrolling text in A New Hope and made it an entire movie.
And they made the most brutal Vader scene of all time.
Oh my God. Yeah. I love that.
So brutal.
But then it's arguable. Did Luke equal that scene in The Mandalorian?
It felt like they tried to at least like do the mirror of.
Yeah, I felt that too. I thought so. I loved when Luke showed up in The Mandalorian. I was crying.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I don't cry watching many things, but that, like, the way they built up to it, and then seeing like, holy fuck, that's Luke.
As soon as they were like, oh, lone X-wing, I was like, oh,
no way.
No.
Yeah, I was so happy that I didn't get it spoiled for me. I was amazed. I don't know how I didn't get it spoiled for me.
Yeah. I stay off the internet for that stuff.
And I think they did a good job of keeping that quiet because I don't remember seeing anything like up until that week.
Mm-hmm.
And and I remember thinking like, no way. No, like the lone X-wings, like it's just that there's no fucking way.
Yeah.
And you're standing, you're like, oh my God, they did.
Yeah, then you see his belt and then you see the green lightsaber and you're like, no.
Yeah, I don't and it makes you think like, what the fuck are they going to do now? How are they going to make this work?
Yeah.
The first part we didn't even touch on. The first part that makes you think that, oh, this is someone serious is Grogu's reaction when the ship starts getting close, like he feels something.
Yeah.
So, whoa, why is it Ahsoka? No, it can't be Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Oh.
I was with my partner watching it and I was like, it can't be Luke, but it has to be. Like I was like, how are they going to do this? And as soon as we saw him like with the hood and everything, I was like, oh no.
And because I think that worked because I think that was the first time that we knew for sure exactly where in the timeline this was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was a lot of speculation.
Yeah, they kind of mention like 5 years.
Yeah,
4 or 5 years after Return, after the fall of the Empire. So I I placed it after Vader's death and after the Death Star. But seeing Return of the Jedi, Luke like definitely solidified that.
What are your theories on like what happens to Grogu?
I don't want to think about it. Because I'm like, well, why don't we never ever see him in the future? What happens?
I don't want to
Yeah.
think. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I don't want to think about it because, yeah, God damn it.
My hope is that he goes back with Mando, and they're just going around doing their thing.
Yeah,
and that he was not at Luke's Jedi school.
Yeah, that's yeah. I
Yeah,
try
that's
not
the
to
worst. Yeah.
think about that.
yeah.
Okay, we talked about, we've done a lot of House of Slaughter stuff, and we touched on what maybe got Boom's attention on you for the series, but I do want to talk about the Autumnal. As I said at the top, it is one of my favorite books of the past year, and I think it's something that too many people have not read yet. So I want to ask, do you think that your experience doing that book helped prepare you for what you're doing on House of Slaughter?
It definitely did, and I still don't feel fully prepared because I'm still pretty new to comics. Getting a grasp on monthly deadlines has been a struggle, but I definitely think because the Autumnal took me a year, and it's the biggest thing I ever did. So I am more prepared than I ever would have been without it. It helped me a lot with like very character driven storytelling and emotional like storytelling, horror, all of that. The House of Slaughter was like a perfect next project for me.
Yeah. So I was before we got on, I was telling Tom about the Autumnal, and I don't know if I've come up with a good way to explain it to people, what the story is. How would you pitch someone the story? Because people who are listening right now should absolutely check out the Autumnal, and maybe you can put into better words why.
I usually tell people that it's the Autumnal is about a small, seemingly nice town with a dark secret, and it follows a mother and daughter who move there. And there's a history of missing children, something in the woods that might be responsible. And the mother and daughter who are new there slowly uncover everything.
So I think what I told Tom before we started talking to you was, I think I said, take the Blair Witch Project and just eliminate the whole aspect of the kids with the video cameras, and just take the lore that exists of this entity that is responsible for these things that have been happening over the years.
Yeah, it might be a witch, it might be a monster, it might be nothing.
And the other question I wanted to ask about the Autumnal is there any chance of returning to the world of Clementine Biddle?
I think that there is potential. We have talked about it. We did very subtly establish that it's kind of in the same universe as the plot from Vault Comics also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you did some covers for the plot. That's Michael Morisi's book, if anyone hasn't checked that out.
Yeah, Michael Morisi and Tim Daniel, Josh Hickson. I love that book so much. And I was able to do some covers for it, which allowed me to do some crossover. So if you actually look closely in the plot, there are actually characters that are wearing Comfort Notch shirts at one point. And I actually put a Cape Augusta shirt in the Autumnal, trying to establish that they do kind of exist in the same universe. So something in that universe, whether it involves Clementine Biddle or not is totally possible. So I don't see why not, and I'd love to do it. So I'm sure, and I know that Daniel Kraus would as well. So it's just a matter of when.
As soon as you said comfort notch, I just thought comfort crotch. And if anyone has read the Autumnal, you'll understand why. I think that's what I prefer to call it now.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to touch on this quick since we were talking about Michael Morisi and his things. Have you read any of Barbaric?
Yes.
Yeah, that's so good.
That's awesome.
If anyone, it's only 3 issues in right now. I think there's going to be more, but
Yes,
it's
there
at
is.
least on hiatus. But so imagine a barbarian who is basically cursed to roam the world, and he is compelled and forced to do good at any given opportunity. That's his curse. He has to help anyone who needs his help. And he has a sentient axe that has a wicked thirst for blood and is, a wise ass and very violent. But the more people that they kill, or whatever beings that they have to fight, he wants their blood, and that's what he gets for killing them, is he drinks their blood. But he gets drunk and increasingly more violent and more drunk the more people that they kill. But it's just a really fun book.
Yeah, I love it.
Do we, Tom, are you ready to maybe hit Chris with a lightning round?
We could do that, yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
So a lightning round is just a little thing that we like to do. We're going to ask you a series of admittedly dumb questions, and it's just to help people get to know you a little bit more.
Okay.
Let's do a Halloween edition. So what is
Ooh.
your favorite Halloween candy?
The Reese's that are shaped like little pumpkins.
Okay, I'm just glad you didn't say candy corn.
Reese's that are
Oh.
shaped like little pumpkins? They have those?
Yeah, little jack-o'-lantern Reese's.
I don't think I've ever seen those. That's gonna come in some of those. All right. I just realized, Robin, we completely forgot to ask Kelly Jones the question that was left for him.
Shit.
Right.
That was Cliff Chang's question, right?
Yeah, we can save that one for Chris then.
Yeah. Do you remember what Cliff's question was?
Yeah, I do. You want to
Okay,
ask?
I'm a dumbass and I forgot. Yeah, you can fire.
Okay.
And well, let's warn Chris now. So a thing that we like to do, I guess we forgot to do it with Kelly this last time he was on. We allow the guests the opportunity to leave a question for the next guest. So if you want to, just in the back of your mind, maybe come up with something, and you can throw that out after if you come up with anything.
Okay.
Yeah. So Cliff Chang asked, when we asked what he would like to ask the next guest, he asked, if you were not an artist right now, what would you be doing?
I would be working at a bookstore.
So still close to something that you love.
Yeah, definitely. I love stories whether I can draw or not. So I might be a writer, but for sure I would just be around stories in some way. And I'd say video store if those were still a thing.
Okay. We asked you the Star Wars question, but if you could only take one Star Wars character as your favorite, who would that be?
Probably Princess Leia.
Interesting. Okay. What would you say about Princess Leia that you love the most?
I think from the get-go, she was written as a much stronger character than most films we're used to. It kind of flips it on its head, where it starts off, it's like, a princess that needs rescuing. That's very typical. But then they get there and she's the entire time dragging these 2 men that are like quote unquote rescuing her and leading the way. And I love that about her.
Yeah.
And her evolution to becoming General Leia is amazing. I love Carrie Fisher as a person. So just everything about her all of her looks, all of her roles, all of Princess Leia's roles throughout the universe, throughout the Star Wars timeline, being just always like strong and vocal and um, mean, and I think she's great.
Yeah, definitely a strong character for sure. If so if you had to choose between a New York style New York style thin crust versus Chicago style deep dish, what would you go?
I think a New York style, only because that's a tough choice, because I've had deep dish that was very bad, but obviously it wasn't Chicago style, and I've had Chicago style deep dish, which is amazing. I think it depends on how hungry I am. If I'm like not going to do anything for the rest of the day, Chicago style. If I am just having lunch, like a slice of New York style pizza.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's we were talking to some of the last guests, but they're doing all sorts of gimmicks these days with pizza, and
that one was terrible. We gotta tell. So there's this one place. Where are they? Are they in New York?
yeah, I think they're in Brooklyn.
Yeah. So there's this place. They're showing off this like double-decker pizza. So they make a pizza, and then they make another pizza on top of it, and it's just it just feels like a complete gimmick. And
Yeah, why?
Like, what's the point?
Yeah, it sounds like such a mess.
Yeah. If you wanted that, you could just fold your pizza in half.
Yeah, exactly. And what's even weirder is that they do like a barbecue chicken on the bottom, and then they'll do like a pepperoni on the top.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. I don't understand it. These kids
Yeah.
these days.
Mm-hmm.
These
I don't
kids.
know. I'd probably try it, but it wouldn't be like a favorite.
Yeah, for sure. If you could pick one director, you can only watch movies from this director for the rest of your life, which director would it be?
Probably, I don't know, people probably bully me about this, but probably Christopher Nolan.
Not here, sir. I don't think we'll bully you.
I don't know. I just think his movies are like big scale and fun, and I could watch the Batman trilogy over and over. And Interstellar is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Mhm.
So if I had to choose only one, I would definitely say Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, we've gotten a bad rap ourselves. People have mislabeled us as Chris Nolan haters. That's not true. We love Chris Nolan, and because we love him so much, we dive deep into the Batman trilogy, the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah.
It's funny because, like, I don't know, Robin might be similar, and you probably have an opinion on this yourself, but Chris, like, even though we love Batman, even though I love Batman, I wouldn't say that the Batman movies are my favorite Chris Nolan movies. I would have to say, currently, and this changes, Interstellar is probably my favorite Chris Nolan movie.
Yeah, me too. I love space movies in general, and I like the whole space opera feel of it. It feels like there's a lot of like homage to 2001: A Space Odyssey, and I love how they kind of pioneered the technology that actually helped us discover what black holes look like. Because Christopher Nolan is just, he's like that. He has to get everything as real as possible before throwing like some fantastical element into it. And so I that's definitely one of my favorites.
Shout out to Hans Zimmer too. Hans Zimmer.
Always. Yeah, Hans Zimmer. I listen to Hans Zimmer music while I work.
Nice.
That guy's nuts.
Yeah.
It's funny what you pointed out there about just because you're a Batman fan, Chris Nolan's Batman movies not just automatically being your favorite Chris Nolan movies. It's similar to what we talked about earlier, that just because we're Batman fans, Batman isn't our favorite James Tynion comic.
Mhm.
And yeah, I could even go further than that. Like, just because I like Batman, the Batman games aren't my favorite video games. That's the Last of Us games.
Right.
Yeah. I think and I think that's what, like, I mean, he does, you can make the argument that like they're the best Batman movies or whatever, but I mean the guy is just I love he just has a way of telling a story that people love, and so you love it, we love it. It's good stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
The Interstellar thing too, like there's so many layers of it. Like I feel like every time I watch that movie, I learn something more about it. And when I first saw it, I was very intrigued by like the ending of it, where he's traveling through the different crosshatches of like time and space and his daughter's life. And at first, I'm like, what does this mean? And it like I've been reading a lot lately outside of outside of comics and books and stuff, and I'm like learning, oh my god, that makes so much more sense now. So it's awesome when you go somewhere else and read other things or consume other media, and that informs a piece of art that someone already did, to where it makes it click even later. You're like, oh my god. So I'm reading it's funny, I'm reading this book about like UFOs and Bigfoot, right? And that made me understand Interstellar even better.
Yeah.
What he's doing at the end of the movie, and I'm like, oh my god, that makes so much more sense now.
Check out
God, what's his name? He's got a mustache.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
not that one.
Oh, the other one.
He's got a mustache. He's got silly ties.
No,
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Not Neil deGrasse Tyson. No, the
Steve Jobs.
No.
Is he on TV?
He was on TV. He's dead now.
Oh,
science guy. Edgar Mitchell.
Carl Sagan.
Oh, Carl Sagan. Okay.
Carl Sagan.
Oh yeah, Cosmos.
Yes, I don't know why I couldn't think of it. Carl Sagan did a great explanation of a fourth dimensional object which we can't perceive, and it's the Tesseract, and that was what Matthew McConaughey was like traveling through at the end of Interstellar.
Yeah.
And Carl Sagan does a great explanation of what that is and how it's kind of the three-dimensional representation of a fourth dimensional object that we can't perceive. And that's what they based it on, is the whole theory of what a tesseract is, which is basically a cube, but in a higher, like a cube in 3 dimensions has length, width, and height, but a tesseract has length, width, height in a 4th dimension. And that's why it like collapses in on itself in the way that you see in the movie, in kind of a kaleidoscope way. It's trippy, but Carl Sagan has a great explanation of that, which helps you also appreciate the movie even more.
Yeah. It's it was that concept that he talks about. It's peppered into a lot of other things that I was reading, and what I love about it is like they kind of explain it. They try to explain in the movie like the constant is love, so that's what allows you to travel through space and time, because it's the one thing that exists beyond space and beyond time. So it's like that's the equation that you can use. And so like the stuff that I'm reading outside of it, it's like, oh my god, like, so basically like these books I'm reading believe that if you meditate and if you astrally project yourself, you can experience existence beyond time and space, and if you want to become like a part of consciousness to experience moments in your life that are you're reliving them and feeling like you're really there, which is kind of what he's doing in the movie. And I didn't really get the whole concept of that before, and after reading his stuff, it's like, oh my god, this is amazing.
It's like a mixture of like science and like metaphysical
I love it, man.
stuff. And I do like a good mixture of fantasy,
which is what Star Wars is.
Sci-fi. Yeah.
When you're a kid watching Star Wars, I never understood that, like, man, George Lucas was like totally into like this stuff, and he's writing it in the space opera. So yeah, we went off on a tangent. What was even that question?
We tangent the shit out of episodes all the time, though. So anyone listening knows that was coming.
Yeah, the director I could watch.
Chris Nolan. Anyway,
so before we put you on the spot to ask you for a question for the next guest, So let's assume, okay, you're wrapping up your run on House of Slaughter, whether it's, a year from now, 2 years, whatever, and your next comic project can be anything you want. What would you want it to be?
Well, I have a story that I'd like to pitch that I could write and draw myself.
Nice.
So that's a goal. That's a plan for the future. I don't know how soon, but if I could do anything, that would be the thing.
Cool. Yeah, that's an interesting choice, that your selection is your own vision, something that you've got planned yourself, because so many people that we speak to say, I want to do a Batman book with with Frank Miller writing it, or what have you.
Oh yeah, I mean, something cool like Batman would be awesome, but in my perfect world, I would just be able to write the thing I want to write and draw what I want to draw, and tell my own big epic story with no constraints.
Let's say if you had that opportunity, okay, you're going to get to write and draw your own story. But first, before you get to that, you got to pick this one project. And that is, you have to do concept art for a movie. What would it be?
Well, probably Star Wars. Star Wars.
You just get to see all this, just like Jock, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So I have the Millennium Falcon next door, or an X-Wing.
Yeah, I want a job where the Millennium Falcon is beside the bathroom.
Yeah.
Have you gone and checked out any of the Disney parks with the new?
No, I was gonna go before COVID, and so that kind of threw a wrench in it. But I'd love to go sometime after I finish House of Slaughter.
Yeah,
it's on the list.
Yeah, I've been to the one in California, and it's pretty surreal standing inside of the cargo bay of the Millennium Falcon, and it's weird. It's awesome and weird.
Yeah.
But okay, Robin, what was that? What's the final lightning round question?
Well, I guess the last one we can throw is well, you sort of touched on this earlier, and it made me actually think of the lightning round when you mentioned it. What was the best advice you've ever been given, whether it's personally or professionally? What was the best advice you've ever been given, and who gave it to you?
I think the best advice I've ever been given, just in general, is don't miss anything, and that you could dive in and find your own meaning in that, because I know it could mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But I take it as do the things you want to do, because like we have this one life as far as we're aware, and don't miss the things, don't let a job or whatever stop you from doing a thing that will make you happy, just because why be unhappy if you can help it. I don't know. So that would be it, is don't miss anything. And I know it's vague, but I think that if you find your own meaning in that, that's what's special about it. And it was actually my dad who gave me that advice.
Good.
Awesome.
And have you come up with anything you would like to leave for, I don't know, do we even know who the next guest is right now at this point?
We haven't scheduled anything solidly yet.
I've actually been talking with Ross from Boom, and we're trying to set up a time for him to come on and talk about Boom stuff, but
cool.
I'm not sure how soon that'll happen. So yeah, the question can be just for anyone, just.
Okay. Yeah, my question would be alien or aliens?
Ooh,
interesting. That reminds me. Do you guys watch the movies that made us on Netflix?
They just came out with, wasn't it the horror, the 90s? What is it? Horror movies?
Yeah. The new season that just came out is Aliens is one of them, not Alien, but Aliens. They also do Friday the 13th, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, and then because it totally fits in with the four of those, Coming to America.
It's funny.
That's funny.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, so yeah, we will pass that along to whoever we have on next. That'll be a fun one.
Awesome.
For sure.
And so we will let Chris get out of here now, get back to life. We really appreciate you taking the time to do this. By the time you're hearing this episode, House of Slaughter #1 is already in stores. Get off your ass and go pick it up. And while you're there, tell them to give you a copy of the Autumnal trade paperback. So that's a funny thing. If anyone who wasn't following this, you guys had a funny thing with Amazon not allowing Vault to, if I understood it right, they weren't letting Vault sort of purchase promotion for the Autumnal because they felt the cover art of the trade was too graphic.
Yeah, and we were allowed to sell it on Amazon, but it was an issue with promoting it with them and having it like marketing it through Amazon and promoting it through Amazon was a difficulty.
So that right there should tell you that you want to go pick it up. You know, this is the book that Amazon doesn't want you to buy.
Yeah.
Go to hell, Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, again, thanks so much, Chris. House of Slaughter is out now. The Autumnal is out. Go pick them up. And thank you, Chris, for being here.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Our pleasure.